Welcome to MRE Uncut, where we'll give you real and practical insights into the real estate scene in Melbourne. We'll discuss what's happening in the industry, all backed by MRE's history of over 30 years in the game. With that said, let's jump into this week's episode of MRE Uncut.
Welcome back to another MRE podcast. My name's Stephen Fitzsimon, and today I'm very lucky to be joined once again by Riley Jane Dixon.
Hello, good to be back.
And we've got a new arrival guest today, Krystal Kazakoff.
Hello.
So I'm spoiled to be with you two ladies. Riley, you're one of our portfolio managers. So today's discussion about how to get your bond back quickly will be one close to your heart, I'm sure.
Got a lot to say about that, yes.
And Krystal, you're on the road a lot, checking out our properties, meeting our new tenants, and then also having a look at their properties during the tenancies.
Correct.
So you'll be able to give us some ideas about things that they could perhaps avoid during their tenancies to make sure that they get their bonds back a little bit sooner when it comes to the end. Because that's one of those things, like at the moment, until we've got your bond back, you sort of, there's a hole in your pocket for a few $1,000s at the moment, and no one's going to enjoy that.
Yeah, certainly.
So let's get started. Every tenant's looking for that bond return to come back, but they've got to allow how long, Riley? Like in terms of like if you vacate a property and you drop the keys back, what's sort of the best timeline that you would get your bond back under normal circumstances?
Yeah, look, under normal circumstances, we try to complete your vacate inspection within 3 days of you returning keys to the property. Obviously, give and take that if there's a weekend, it might be a little bit more.
Why does it take 3 days for a property manager to get out and have a look at a property, just in practical terms?
Look, it could be a lot of different factors. One, maybe correct keys haven't been returned. Two, you're unable to go out that day, you don't have the time. I know for me personally, I will go out the very next day that keys have been returned, but we do have up to 3 days to go out there. We also give the renter an opportunity to attend with us.
So our aim's 24 hours, but the reality is it might be a bit longer than that.
Exactly.
What were you just saying about the renter, the attending?
Yeah, of course. We will give the renter the option to attend that inspection with us. We are obligated to offer that.
Is it happening? Are you hearing about it happening in other agencies?
It doesn't. It is legislation that we are to provide the renters with an opportunity to attend to the final inspection with us. Doesn't often happen. But for MRE, when we go to the property, we do a very thorough inspection. And in the best case scenario, if the property is great, we'll obviously dive into that a bit deeper. But if there are no issues with the property, you can expect your bond back within the next 7 days. I think that's been quite generous because we then liaise with the rental provider to confirm that they're happy for it to be released. And then once it's released, our accountants, they lodge the request to release the bond via the RTBA.
Yes.
And then it is up to the renter at that point to initiate the bond claim or to accept the bond claim that they receive from the RTBA.
Okay, so let's dumb that down and go backwards. So I've vacated my property on a Monday.
Yeah.
I've dropped the keys back to the office. They're going there hopefully on the Tuesday, Wednesday, but perhaps even the Thursday. They go there on the Thursday. They then do a video at MRE. We do a video. We send that video off to the owner. And we say, "Hi, Mr. Owner, are you happy that we release the bond to your tenants? As you can see, they've left it in really good nick. Let's give them 24 hours to review it because they're busy people too. So we're talking about the Friday before they've reviewed it and given you an answer. And if they go yes, then you click some buttons in the back end of the portal because the government holds all the bonds.
Correct.
And you click some buttons in there, which then sends an email to the tenants saying you've got to fill in where you want the money to go.
That's right, yes.
It's up to them to fill in that form. So if you've got 4 tenants, that's 4 people that need to agree.
Yes.
Right? So that's not the agent's fault. That's something else.
Yep.
And then they agree where the bond wants to go. They press go, and then do you know how long it is till it hits their account?
Yeah, RTBA say it can take up to 3 to 5 business days for the money to hit your account. Sometimes it comes back that same day, but that's really just that's a variable.
Right. So
but 3 to 5 business days.
The minimum they should be banking on is from the day that they returned it 1 week.
1 week. Yeah, I think that's safe to say.
And then in a highly likely circumstance, and this is when the place has been returned and the owner's happy with it and everyone's good, it could be 2 weeks before they get the money back.
Yeah.
And that's in a clean, perfect, normal circumstance. So
That's
there's a
right.
few time delays there.
There is, yeah.
The government talks about 14 days, like you've got to, within 14 days, you've got to action something about the bond. Can you go in a bit more detail about that?
Yeah, so as property managers, we have 10 business days to action your bond.
Yep.
And then if nothing is happening within that time, for instance, say the owner has been non-responsive or the renter isn't agreeable to, I guess, some of the issues that were pointed out in the vacate inspection, if that isn't resolved within 10 days, the property manager, we then apply to VCAT under Section 126, which is to seek an extension of the bond, because legally, without action, we can't hold your bond for more than 10 business days without a VCAT order.
Okay.
So we then will apply to VCAT, and it's just a formality. It's not to say we're taking your bond, but it's just so we are doing the right thing by holding your bond and giving you a reason as to why we're doing that.
And what's the most common reason that you see for us needing to apply under this Section 126?
Yeah, look, I won't brush over it, I guess. The most common one is that the property has not been returned in a state that's consistent with the ingoing report, and there's a lot of back and forth with the renter not agreeing to what we're asking them to rectify.
Right. And you want to avoid going to VCAT, so you just ask for an extension.
Very much so, yeah.
And so then hopefully you can resolve it. You get another quote or something like this for whatever needs to be happened. It's then agreed.
Definitely.
And then you release the bond.
So, yeah, it just gives us a bit more time whilst we're still remaining, I guess, what we're doing is legal.
Yeah.
And sometimes we don't have to do that. If we very much know that the renter is going to get, cleaning done or something, then we hold off. But it's purely just as a formality that if after 10 business days it hasn't been actioned, we are required to apply to VCAT for an abridgment. All
right. So that's in all the good circumstances. So I find that fascinating. Henceforth, you really want to be thinking, okay, I want to leave the property as well as possible. Krystal, when you're looking during the tenancy at people's properties, because you're doing some of those routine inspections, are you identifying things straight away that you go, that's going to be a problem come bond time?
Yeah, there is some particular things. When you look at the walls closely and there's markings, sometimes you can get rid of them through the cleaning, but when there's bigger dents,
right,
massive punches to the walls, ceilings also are a big thing that people sort of miss.
Yeah.
Well,
my kids have done a few cracks in the walls at my joint, so I can understand how it can happen.
Yeah.
As a tenant, like if I was renting, I'd be trying to get away with it though, so I wouldn't sort of like, I'd hope that the property manager didn't do a very thorough check.
We do have a couple when you go into inspections and they'll say, oh, this dent, we're leaving in 3 days, but this was there, just letting you know. That was there beforehand.
Right.
But, we always have that condition report in the outgoings to say,
we have a very honest inspection record.
Yeah.
Yeah. And so in our circumstances where we use the video at the move-in, it's pretty transparent that there was either a dent or there wasn't, because it's going to be on the video.
Yeah.
I've seen a lot of circumstances recently where we have things like carpet damage due to pot plants. Are there things like that renters, that either of you ladies could suggest that are common causes for damage that normally ends up delaying your bond return at the end of the period?
Yeah, look, carpets are a very tough thing to work with. When a renter vacates the property, if there are damages there, it's probably usually the first thing that we note is if there's stains in the carpets or damages from pot plants. And in that scenario, we will straight away seek quotes to have the carpet replaced if it can't be cleaned. So if the renter has already arranged steam cleaning the carpets and it hasn't rectified the issue, we will seek external quotes to have the carpets replaced. And due to depreciation of carpets, we can't ever request that the renter pays the full amount of that. But what the rental provider and myself would discuss is seeking compensation from the renter to have these carpets replaced if we're able to prove that they were in immaculate condition prior to the commencement of their tenancy. So that's when potentially that application to VCAT for a bond extension comes in very handy, because carpet quotes can take a while to come back.
Yeah, because trades are horrible at the moment. So it's
They're busy, yeah.
It's like, so how you like it? We're booking out, if we're looking at your example, you might be 3 days into the 14 days, and that's when you find out that the carpets need to be replaced.
Yeah.
And then you've got to book out a trade to come and get the keys. How are you going to do that and get the quote back from 1 or 2 suppliers and then get it approved all within the next 10 days? It's not really overly practical. And
then, it can be a very slow process, and like best believe on the backside of it, we are trying to move it along as quickly as possible. But then if those quotes come back and we've applied for the extension, so we've got some wiggle room, we've got some time, and then those quotes come back, the rental provider and I, we've discussed a compensation amount. We put that forward to the renter, they say no. That's when we then need to continue with going to the hearing for a bond repayment order, in which we'll seek compensation to have the carpets replaced.
Yeah.
Carpets are probably the most common thing.
Right. So then the carpets get replaced, but the renter only had to contribute a percentage of that cost
because of depreciation.
Because it had already depreciated down, at least during the 12 months or whatever the tenancy
Same
was.
with the walls as well. Walls depreciate too.
Yeah.
Or painting.
Yeah.
So those are the most common things that we have to go to VCAT over.
Okay. So it's sort of like, if you know that you've got stains on the carpets, because we all know,
yes,
then don't expect your bond back too quickly, because we're going to have to go through these additional steps. If you need your bond back, let's say you're leaving the country and you need your bond back as soon as possible, what's the recommendation?
Recommendation would be, and I'm sure this is something that Krystal would see all the time, is that at routine inspections, if the renters are home and they point, or you notice that there's stains in the carpet, you say to the renter, "Oh, was this there prior to the commencement of your tenancy?" If they were wonderful and honest and they said yes, or no, it wasn't there, I'd give them recommendations on what to do to not delay their bond at the end. I would say, well, let's discuss now what we're going to do if carpet cleaning doesn't clean this. Like, let's get the ball rolling on how we can resolve this before you even move out of the property, so that we can ensure a swift and quick return of your bond. And I'm sure Krystal at routine inspections would see all the time.
Yeah,
things
that quite commonly.
That she's starting to think of that would probably hold up a bond getting repaid.
So the big ones are walls and carpets.
Yes.
Have I got that right?
Yeah, walls and carpets are probably the main offenders.
Yeah. So fascinating. So basically, keep things off the carpets, take good care of them, clean them if they're problematic. But if you know that it's going to be a stain, then, and you want your bond back fast, then be
say
upfront
something.
With the agent. So
be upfront
and get the ball rolling. At least then you could get the quotes done before they vacate.
Yes. Yep.
And you've got a bit more clarity on where it sort of sits. Okay, so in terms of the tenants, like they're living in the property, they're using the property. How do you define fair wear and tear as they talk about it in the Act? And like, have you got any good examples where fair wear and tear has been decided by a member at VCAT or by an owner or by a tenant that might conflict or be seen in different lights?
Yeah, I'll let you go first.
I think mostly it would come down to time. I mean, if they've been in there for 5, 10 plus years, they're going to have quite a bit of wear and tear. Yeah. Whereas if it's, it's been in there for 6 months, you wouldn't expect so much. I don't exactly have a clear example of it because I've only been working with MRE for about 8 months now, but maybe.
Yeah, I think going back to walls and carpets are probably the most where what is considered general wear and tear is disputed. The way I would phrase it to a renter, if I guess we were having that communication, is that if it is so substantial that I can see it standing back from, say, if it was the wall, I know where it was strictly audio, but this wall's maybe 5 meters away from me. If I can see it very clearly from here, then that is exceeding general wear and tear. And if it can't be wiped off as well, that is exceeding general wear and tear, something that is very visible. It's left a dent or a stain in the wall.
Yeah.
That is what exceeds general wear and tear.
Okay. And then in terms of like, because an owner will think that general wear and tear was the way that they lived in the property and the way that they kept the property. But they can't really look at it that way because they don't live in the same way that these tenants do. They might have young children. I put my hand up there, so I'm sure that there's going to be a different perception there. Have you had cases, Riley, in relation to like going to VCAT and a VCAT member deciding fair wear and tear was more lenient than what your owners were sort of thinking, or do you manage to negotiate out most of them?
Yeah, look, I've gone to VCAT hearings where I guess the member has thrown me a bone and sort of said, like, I'm going to give you time to mediate this situation with the renter.
Yeah.
And then we can discuss with the renter that, okay, like, let's not go for this full amount that we initially proposed. Let's not take your entire bond to have the full property repainted, etc. How about we settle on $350? This is just an example.
Yeah.
And then we just call it a day.
Yeah.
And that particular scenario, they said yes, they accepted. I called the rental providers who they weren't present at the hearing.
Yeah.
And they said, yep, we accept that.
Yeah.
We went back into the hearing and we said that we'd come up with a mediation, and that was the end of it.
That was agreed. So sometimes the members will warn you.
They will.
That you're not going to get the whole lot.
Yeah.
So go and have a chat and a sit down and talk about it.
Exactly what you said, Steve, is that a very common misconception is that with the portfolio managers, what I do and with what Krystal does as well as a liveability agent, we pick up on these items and we give our 2 cents on what we think is reasonable and proportionate. That's our take on it.
Yeah.
But just like you said, when we pass that to a rental provider, they may have a totally different perception.
Yeah.
And between us, we will then, I'm acting on their best behalf. If they want to push it further, I'll have no hesitations in doing that. I want to work how they, want me to work. So a lot of the times I have had to go to VCAT knowing that we do have a difficult case to prove.
Yeah.
And it's been in those cases where we've actually had a mediation instead to decide on an amount that's compromised between 2 parties, and then it's a happy medium for everyone involved.
Yeah, isn't it fascinating? So we've got the same circumstance that we've had in a couple of our other podcasts, where the challenge is that the renters don't know where they stand. They don't understand the practicalities of how the system works. They've cleaned up. They may have given the place a good clean and gotten the carpets steam cleaned, and then 4 days in, they're told that no, the owner wants this wall painted and they want all of this stuff, and they're pulling their hair out because they need the bond back. And then on the flip side of that, you're trying to tell the owner, look, I understand that the carpets have were in excellent condition when the tenants moved in, but they're 5 years old before the tenants moved in, so now they're 6-year-old, so we're really only going to be able to get about 20 to 30% of their value anyhow, so we're going to struggle here. But they don't want to hear that. And this is as a result of legislation, which makes some sense in that if the carpets have been depreciated and you've had the benefit from being able to claim that therefore you shouldn't double dip and be able to claim it from the tenants as well. But on the flip side of that, if the carpets were in excellent condition, well, they could have lasted another 10 years.
Exactly.
And if they were going to last another 10 years, then have they depreciated in their useful what's the word? I don't know. Their useful form.
Yeah. Well, that's the 2 legs we have to stand on when we go to VCAT is, yes, maybe these carpets were 5 years old before the renters moved in, but they now have, for an example, pet urine stains, which is what we see very commonly.
Right.
Pet urine stains, and that's when very much so the VCAT hearing will be more inclined for us to be awarded the compensation we've sought. And that's purely because we're able to prove that prior to the commencement of the tenancy, though these carpets were 5 years old, they were in perfect condition. A year later, when this renter is vacating, there's now several pet urine stains and they are in need of replacement. but we have proof that they could have gone for many years more.
Yeah.
And that's when we will likely be in a more advantageous point to be awarded the compensation we've sought. So
perfect.
Yeah, it's
so there's
give and take.
a lot of evidence sort of requirements. Be very careful, obviously, when you're moving in to a property in terms of making sure that your condition reflects the condition of the property. If you see something that's evident, communicate with your property manager.
Yeah. Best thing you can do.
If it's not evident, you might want to try getting away with it. But the challenge is that if you don't get away with it, then you're not going to get your bond back for a fair bit longer. So it's sort of making that decision as to, do I need my bond back now? So therefore, do I try the path of getting away with it, or do I go down the path of being honest and upfront and trying to be proactive in terms of getting quotes or whatever it might be to be able to do it?
The latter's always the best option, I think, just be honest.
Yeah.
Because
well,
we will help you come to a resolution, and it's going to save you a lot of stress.
And the other thing is, let's be conscious about the fact that just because you made a few marks on a wall doesn't mean that you're going to be accountable for 100% of the cost of repainting, because there's depreciation.
Of course, we cannot claim the full cost of painting. We will seek compensation.
Yeah, so the tenant's fears that might be, oh no, I'm going to have to spend $1,000 getting this repainted, they might actually only have to spend $200 because it's depreciated down.
Exactly. Yeah.
Yeah, fascinating. Thanks for coming in, ladies. It's an absolute pleasure to see you again. Hopefully that's given everybody a bit more information on getting their bonds back quickly, and we've been of some assistance today. Thanks again.
Thanks, Steve.
You.